Hey everyone, welcome to another Weekender. Oh my goodness, we have another jam-packed show this week. We've got no less than 3 guests in. We've got James Johnson, aka Riskany, you'll know him from the website. He's on the show to talk about an American War of Independence article series that he's been working on along with Chris G from the website. That's exciting stuff. We've also got Neil Farside in from Spartan Games to talk about Firestorm Task Force. That's like the new quick play version of Firestorm.
Very cool.
I believe you've got someone in?
Yeah, myself and Warren settled down with Yarrick from Prodos Games to actually have a chat about what's been happening with AVP, what's going on with Warzone Resurrection, and what's going on with Space Crusade.
Oh my goodness, cool stuff. And we've got epic prizes from Prodos to give away in this week's show.
Yeah, well, first up, we have a set of Space Crusade minis. So we have Lamia, Calypso, Nyx, and Themis, which is some of the characters, who are looking very, very nice. The interesting thing about these is that they're actually all one-piece sculpts and one-piece casts.
Really?
Yeah, they are. We then actually have some Warzone stuff to give away as well. So what we have, these are some Martian Banshee line breakers. We then have, if I can get the pronunciation right, Mercurian Maculators. And the last one is actually an Imperial unit, and all I'm going to say is it's Scottish people riding wolves into battle.
Okay.
Fantastic.
I don't think anybody's going to give any grief about slaughtering names. That's why I gave him the task. There was no way I was reading those names. Yeah, epic bundles. So you can win both those bundles.
One lucky winner is going to win all of those Prodos goodies.
Oh my goodness. Get commenting here on beastofwar.com, on the YouTube version of this, and on the Facebook post for your chance to win. Right, come on, let's get on with this show.
In a world controlled by massive corporations, a steady aim and split-second decisions are needed for your megacon to complete its goals. Begin your missions at the Mercs Hub on beastofwar.com. Keep your blaster handy, the West is a dangerous place. Fight to survive as men turn to monsters and the dead rise on the Wild West Exodus Hub at beastofwar.com.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Weekender. Show's underway. My goodness, we've got another cool prize.
We have another cool prize, but some very interesting chats coming down the line in this show.
Yep, but before we get stuck into everything, let's tell you who won last week's Mega Bundle prize.
Yeah, that was the 6 buildings that people are going to get through the year from the guys over at Battlefront from their premium property range. Yep.
Absolutely, a lot of interest in that. Justin, who is the lucky person?
Our winner is Silver Stars. You lucky sod, get your prize claim in.
Excellent. So, Silver Stars from the website. There's a wee button along the top where you can contact us. Here's the details, and we'll organise getting your buildings out. Awesome stuff. Right, before we get into news and things like that, I want to just remind people that it is AdeptiCon, and we are live blogging all weekend at AdeptiCon.
I assume you're using the royal we. Dawn and Gianna are at Adepticon. They will be live blogging all weekend, bringing you the latest and greatest from the event, yes?
Yes, and it's exciting stuff this year again. That show's always cool. Ben, what do you think of Adepticon?
Yeah, fantastic. It's grown to even bigger than it was last year. Some really good stuff going on there, some nice events, lots of good stuff. Yeah. So,
Absolutely. Right. Another thing before we get stuck in this show is I want to talk a bit about how Infinity Week went.
Yeah.
And the highlights and stuff. Justin?
I really enjoyed Infinity Week this week because I actually got to sit down with Carlos and Killian and actually talk through some of the new rules that have been coming out for N3 Human Sphere.
Yeah.
Some of them seem like, not such massive changes, but once you actually bury yourself into the rules, they make a big difference to the game.
Yeah.
Those Pyro-Wear tactics where you have the Symbiomates and the Symbio Bombs coming out onto the table, that suddenly jumps out at me and says, if I have something like one of the Toha tags, the Gorgos, their big machine, it has that symbiote armor, so it can have a Symbiomate with it. So what the Symbiomates do, if you remember right, Lloyd, is they stop incoming damage.
Okay.
So having a tag that can just go, oh, you just fired your big weapons at me this turn. Nah, not going to happen.
Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah. People have been going crazy in the comments, Ben, haven't they?
Yeah, loads and loads of comments. Loads of people really impressed with what's coming in this next book. Yeah.
Yep, and speaking of comments and people going crazy, you have another week to go and comment on the week's only just over.
Yeah.
Go and comment on the videos because
do you want me to do this bit?
Yes.
We have some epic prizes for Infinity Week. We have 3 copies of Operation Ice Storm to give away. Comment on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday's videos for your chance to win. comment on Thursday or Friday's video for your chance to win the epic bundle for 2 players of the Onyx Contact Force, the Ariadna Starter Force, and 2 M3 core rulebooks.
That was good, Justin, but I think
Disengage the QVC voice.
I think I could have done that better myself. I don't think so. You've got that down to a T, rhyming them prizes off.
Yeah, I kind of do have that American presenter voice just down pat whenever I require it. And today, what's he gonna win, Johnny?
That's just creepy. Cut away. Yeah.
I actually do have quite the flexible voice.
If you do say so yourself.
I do say so myself.
Ben. Let's get away from Justin and come over to Ben. Ben,
Okay.
there was something that popped up in the forums that you wanted to highlight.
Yeah, a community member named Ardnut sent me a message, and he was saying, "Oh, you might want to go and check out this forum thread." And so I went to kind of look at it, and he's done an amazing Infinity table, which is quite fitting for this week. This is all based on Tunguska. And this is this fantastic city board that he's done, which is entirely modular, has some really cool buildings in there. Most of this stuff he's made himself, which is pretty fantastic. Just looks insane.
Yeah, we're just looking at the pictures now. Oh,
Very cool. Very
my
cool.
goodness. I mean,
The amount of work you put into that is insane.
Look at the colours. The thing that jumps out at me most, right, if I bring this up, is if someone said to me, I'm going to make a table that's red and black and grey and blue and pink and purple and yellow
You'd think they were
and
mad.
green. In my mind, I'm picturing a monstrosity of a table. A monstrosity of a table.
It does look like he's blended a few companies' terrain together, because I'm seeing a lot of Bandua in there, but there's a couple of ones I'm not so sure I know where they come from.
Yeah, well, follow it through, because there's even more pictures on the Infinity forums for it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But let me finish what I was saying. In my mind, I'm picturing an awful table, but man, has he pulled this off. This looks cool.
Yeah. He's done a really good job here, actually. Like the blending of all the different buildings together, the fact that he's used things from other companies and things he's built himself, the way that he's added scattered terrain onto everything as well, so that it's not just this sort of lifeless street. He's made it look like people live there and sort of work and stuff. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, he's actually done one thing that we actually did for some of our early Infinity stuff. You see all this greenery on here, Lloyd?
Yep, all the
I
planters.
know exactly what that is.
Fish tank stuff.
Yeah, it's the fish tank plants that we used.
Yeah, I see they've got like a maglev train and stuff in there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
All the cool Infinity keynotes of, cool buildings and stuff. But what really jumps out at me is if you look closely.
Oh, hang on.
Let's go back. If you look closely,
Aye.
do you see the little pod type cars and stuff?
Yeah.
They're really cool. I wonder where he's got them from.
Antonosity's workshop do this.
I think
But
that's
do
where they're from, yeah.
Antonosities do the little tiny pod ones?
They do. They
Yeah.
recently had a news segment on the show here where we were talking about those and how cool they looked.
Yeah. Even the little tiny egg ones.
Yeah, the little tiny egg ones, I believe, are from Antonosities, if I'm
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
that is so cool.
If I'm wrong, comment below.
Some of the key points about it, Ben, is it's 6 months to complete.
Yep,
I think you
6
said
months.
that. 12 modular boards.
Yes.
Is it 12 modular boards as in you can lift buildings and all in a module, or
Yes.
the
Yes,
buildings
12
and stuff?
modular boards so that you can separate them up and put them back together in different formations. And I assume you can pick up the buildings as well and put them together in different formations as well. Yeah.
Very cool. Very,
Really,
very
really cool stuff. Right, moving on. It's time to get stuck into some news and look at some other really cool stuff that's been coming out. Justin, what have we got up first?
Well, first up, the guys over at Customeeple have been making some amazing Malifaux terrain. So they've done a very, very cool and very, very creepy carnival.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
bring this up on screen for me. Look at this.
Ooh.
Right, I wouldn't just play Malifaux on this, I would play everything on this. Imagine this if you were playing the Batman miniatures game.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yes.
this was the Joker's hideout.
It is reminiscent of another train piece that we've seen a few months back that was more aimed at Batman and stuff. Or what was that? What was it aimed at, Ben? The last carnival sort of thing.
I think you might. Are you looking at towards the Plascraft stuff? Is
It
that-
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it aimed at, Ben?
Oh, that
Very,
was
very
aimed
nice.
for Malifaux as well. Yeah.
All
It was
right,
aimed for Malifaux as well. Yeah.
So they both complement each other really well because you could buy
Yes.
both and intermingle it. The other thing that
Yes.
you get with this is it isn't just the carnival parts and stuff. It's the planters and stuff as well. You may not have noticed it because we were going through it pretty quickly there.
Yeah, well,
Bring the
I
page back
can
up,
call up
Justin.
the planters up again here. These here are what you're on about, yeah.
Yes, you don't get the actual plants, but you get the planters. Now, people at home might go, so what? Planters are cool because they help you break up flat planes and stuff without
Yeah.
having to sit and stick little blocks together.
Yeah, it populates the dead zones in your board that you're always going to have whenever you start laying out. Like, you see, even if I was doing a nice little city board,
Yeah.
I would get a lot of those and actually just do little parkways and stuff just along the middle of streets and stuff.
Yeah.
Because then you can actually add some cover to those dead zones where, oh, I'm trying to run across the road, but I can't make it. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, there's a planter I can hide behind.
Absolutely, and there's also tokens, Ben. Can you give us a little bit of info about them?
Yeah, sure. So as well as all the terrain, they've decided to come out with a range of tokens for all manner of different effects and activation and things like that you could have in the game. So when you raise people up from the dead, when you cause effects on them and stuff like that, like burning and all that type of thing. So they've done a whole bunch of different tokens for that. And they've also designed a little storage box as well, so you can carry it all around in a nice themed container as well.
Very cool.
Cool stuff.
Very cool.
Right, we have a packed show, so I have about enough time to squeeze one other news item in.
Okay.
There'll be more in the backstage show, but we've time for one more. Ben, what's the other news item that we're going to cover today?
Yeah, so the last one is Dark Age, and they've got some more releases out for March, so the end of this month and the beginning of April, and that is some more stuff for the Forsaken.
Yeah.
This is Saint Joan, and some crazy armored guys that look like they're sort of out of some strange fantasy world. I'd imagine these guys could live in Dark Souls or something. And they have the Death Knights and the Sin Eaters as well.
I'm liking this stuff. It's continuing on all them really sharp lines and stuff that they've been working on.
It's that new sculpting style that we've seen from the guys at Dark Age.
Yeah, for example,
you look at Joan, and the armor just jumps out with those sharp, clean lines along the edge of the armor plates.
She's looking really sharp, but I think actually my favorite is the Death Knight.
My favourites as well.
I think that looks awesome.
Yeah.
They've got a very ornamental, almost Eastern feel to them, which is quite cool.
But I love the I'm not sure what it is, the loinclothy looking strapping and stuff that they've got going on, which is really cool, Ben.
Yeah, it does well to break up because obviously these guys are huge, armoured, hulking dudes, but I love the fact that they've broken out with the leather and things as well. And the armour has that look of fantasy, but it also has bits of sci-fi to it as well, with the way the shoulder pads look on top, yeah.
Well, you see, what I'm liking is, whenever we first started looking at Dark Age, it was very much a broken world, but now we're seeing the society that's rising from the ashes is actually making some new kit and some new gear. So it's not post-apocalyptic anymore, it is a true sci-fi game that it's becoming now, which I really love.
Awesome stuff. And these guys just look so mean with them.
There are too many games that are tempting you at the minute. Every time I turn around, Lloyd's going, shiny, I must play it.
I never used to have shiny syndrome as bad as I do now. I'm like the scatterbrain of gamers. Right.
Well.
Speaking of being tempted by stuff,
I'm
going to jump us into our first interview. Again, I'm talking to Neil Forsett from Spartan, and he was over talking about Firestorm Task Force. Now, what's really cool about this is if you like Firestorm, but you don't have time for big, long games, this is like a super fast version of Firestorm. Let's see what he had to say.
It's time for 28mm World War II action. Will you recreate history or reshape it your way? On the Bolt Action Hub at beastsofwar.com. Anime cyberpunk style meets skirmish combat in Infinity. Experience 8 high-tech factions and fight to control the human sphere at the Infinity Hub on beastsofwar.com.
All right, so I'm here with Neil again from Spartan Games.
Not Firestorm.
I was going to call you Firestorm Games, but we're here to talk about Firestorm Task Force.
We are. Thank you. Yes.
It's like a new flavour of Firestorm, or what is it we're looking at here?
Well, Firestorm Armada has been around for a number of years now. Actually, 5 years roughly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the second game we brought out after Uncharted Seas. Lots of factions, lots of models. But at version 2.0, those rules, very granular game. So it's the sort of thing. If you want to play 2 or 3 hours, then it kind of, you can lose yourself into it over that period. At Gen Con last year, we got feedback from Vanguard, which are our guys who go out there and kind of like promote the game, and customers think that they would like a kind of a faster play game. And they also said, could we take a look at the tournament scene?
Yes.
And basically make a game that was ideal for tournament play.
Well, your entire logo is Firestorm Task Force, fast play space combat game in a war-torn galaxy. Fast play is your key here, I guess.
It is. I mean, basically what we did is we took a look at the Firestorm rules, and instead of trying to rewrite them to make them go faster, because that just seemed like an idiotic idea,
Because it wouldn't be Firestorm anymore.
It will be Firestorm, and that's that granular game. We went away and said, okay, how do we make it faster? So we looked at the mathematics, and it's just, we simplified movement, we simplified the combat, we abstracted some of the detailing to say, okay, these are the flavour of a fleet and the flavour of these ships. Now let's get them on the table and kill each other. So basically, the idea being is that if somebody wants to play a 3-round tournament in an afternoon, go for it.
Yeah.
But also, kind of ironically, it kind of cuts both ways, because the starter sets that we did are perfect for that. If you want, let's say you've got half an hour to play, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You can do that. If you double up the contents and still want to play for an hour and a half, instead of it going on for 5 hours, you can just pile on the models and play massive games and then get them over and done with an hour and a half. So you can still have those big games. It condenses it right down. But I think the key thing is that it's not it's a complementary product to Firestorm. It's the idea being is that you've got your set of models.
Yes.
Do with it what you want to do. If you want to play gritty, granular, go for it. If you want to play a fast play, go for it. But it's the same set of models. That's the key message.
Okay.
I guess.
So I have a Firestorm fleet.
Yep.
Can I use my Firestorm fleet in Firestorm Task Force?
You can. Yeah, we've been testing the rules. What we did is we've got the starter sets and we tested those statistics out, which are here. We released them we are, by the time this video goes out.
Yeah.
We will have released the statistics for the patrol fleets for all of the core nations and other ships.
Okay, so if we have a look at the actual starter boxes, there's 3 for this, isn't there?
Three 2-player boxes.
Okay, so let me just bring an image up, right? Yeah. So first image I'm going to bring up here. What are we looking at here, Neil?
We're looking at the Cerulean Collective versus the Relthosa. So we're looking at our lizard race, which are the red, kind of pinky red ones, and our spidery race, which are the green guys on the right. And
they're both in one of the starter boxes.
What you got there is in one box. Yep.
Yeah.
So they're the starter fleets for that. You get rule book statistics.
Right. Well, you have the rule book, so if you can just put the rule book in front of you, I can get that under camera for us.
Okay, here's the rule book.
So there you go, rule book. If you're gonna flick through it a bit there.
She's she's kind of simple, nice, small. I mean, it comes in at 40 pages. It's designed to basically for people to read it, embrace it, get it on the table, and start killing each other pretty quickly.
Okay, and I noticed that other than the rule book, there's just 2 sheets now sitting in front of you.
There is, yep. We have a statistics sheet, so that's there's the directorate statistics sheet, and you basically got 3 types of ship in the starter set.
Yeah. And
then on the reverse of those, we got the Aquans, and then on the other starters.
So what am I looking at here? There's 3 separate boxes.
Yeah, you've got you've got a on this particular instance here. Nice. I'll turn it on so I can see what I'm looking at. We've got a escort carrier, a cruiser, and a light frigate. So here, 2 medium hulls, and you can either build it as a carrier or you build it as a cruiser.
Okay.
And that's the pieces are in the box, and then you have the light cruiser, the light frigate.
And that's all I really need to reference to get.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You've got
a fleet of this sort of size up and running.
Yes.
In this game.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Like I said, it's to table kind of a fast to table strategy, I guess, is probably the way to look at it.
Which fleets are we looking at there? Do we have a picture of the actual ones that match?
Yeah, so the cruiser is that one there, which will be matching up to this little boy here.
So we have some more pictures on.
Actually, no, I apologise. That is the escort carrier.
But if I just want the factions, so have I matched it up? Does this match the cards we're looking at?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, so
that is the cards we're looking at. Well
so
done.
the cards we're flicking back and forth is actually for this starter set. And who are we looking at here?
These are the Aquan Prime and the Directorate. So the Aquans are the fish, for want of a better expression. So that's a very poor sort of illustration of what they are, but they are an aquatic set of species of aliens.
So, kind of like the aquatic guy from Hellboy sort of look. That's something like that. That's why I imagined it.
That would do. Well, you can go with that. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with that. The Directorate are space thugs. They are gigantic, malevolent space corporation.
Yeah.
They only care about acquisition of money and greed, so they're actually nasty.
Okay.
They're into bio weapons and corrosive, and basically what their whole idea is they like to do it to kill the crew and kill the worlds, but keep everything intact so they can basically kind of strip it of its assets.
Yeah, just use everything.
They're not a nice bunch.
Okay, and then we have another image, but before we do that, let's have a look at the other card.
Yeah, the tokens. Very colourful, very simple. I mean, easy to do it. You've got damage tokens, disorder tokens, some mind tokens, and so yeah, so basically that's it.
And on the other side, it's
they're just double-sided. You've got activations, so you activate the unit, you put an activated token down to show that you've used it. You've got obscured for things that are cloaked, so anything that's gone invisible or is hiding behind space debris.
Okay.
And actually, what I haven't brought with me is the cards for the scenery, but there's a couple of sheets of punch-out scenery in there that do asteroids for you, so you can actually use. So and they're all in the starter set.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Speaking of starter sets, let's show what comes in the other starter set. I believe this is the correct image I'm going to bring up now.
That's Dendrenzi Federation versus Terran Alliance. I'll put my teeth in. So you got 6 light frigates for everybody, and then you have a cruiser hull and it varies between carriers and torpedo cruisers there.
Okay, so Task Force comes with 3 starter sets covering 6 races in total.
Yep.
I believe Firestorm has something more like 20, does it?
There's a lot of factions in that. You've got 6 core factions, and then you've got the Alliance races on top. And what we're doing is, as we move forward, now that the game's arrived, every box set we bring out new will feature dual statistics. You'll be able to get access to the Firestorm Armada ones and the Task Force.
So if I have a fleet now that isn't part of this.
Yeah, well, we're rolling our way through the fleets to basically to kind of add the statistics in. We wanted to get the core 6 right first because they're the oldest ones that most players have got.
Yeah.
And then once we got the balance right in that, we're kind of moving our way through those stats. But there's a lot of ships actually. There's a lot of factions, a lot of ships. There's an incredible number of a variety of ships out there for people to expand their fleets on.
Is there any key differences that obviously there's lots of differences because it's a different rule set, but I mean
weapon systems, movement, we have what they call the MAD in Firestorm Armada or in Task Force. So in both they've got a variety set of special rules, what we call the model side rules, and they tend to be reinforced superstructures or defenses or corrosive weapons, bio weapons. It's still, special operations troops, so boardings in there as well. So they differentiate between the feel of the ship and the weapon systems and how they interact, and between kinetic weapons, beam weapons, kind of torpedoes, whether you load the torpedoes that were biohazard weapons or decimator warheads, that sort of thing. So they are. I mean, at the end of the day, they're all spaceships.
Yes.
But we differentiate in the feel of how they move and how they fight and then how you arm them up.
So we were talking about it being a faster rule set and stuff. This is stuff that people for tournaments and things have been asking you for then. Yeah,
this is. We've. It's one of those things whereby our audiences across all of our games they used to ask us about tournaments, and it was something that we were always very focused on the game themselves, and then actually what we realised last year was that people wanted a tournament set. They wanted us to basically go back to the mechanical aspect of the games and build them a set of rules that would work in tournaments. So we've done the same for Dystopian Wars as well, actually.
Cool.
We've got a brand new set of rules for that, which I will probably have announced by the time this video goes up. So the stuff that's coming out, and then again that does the same thing for the Dystopian Wars, and that's a more complicated one for us because you've got 584 Dystopian Wars models. It's a huge game. So lots of tournament play, lots of fast play. Get the games on the table.
Where are we with this game working in around accessories and stuff? Like if I bring this image up, for example.
Yeah, space station. So that one there. Yeah, well you've got what you got there is the contents of the two of the Directorate fleet there, which has got these cruisers and its light cruiser, but that's been augmented with a battle station and some weapons platforms, and again anything that's available for the Firestorm Armada fleet will be you can basically retro them into this thing here. So it's very easy to add battleships, carriers, what we call R&D cruisers, scenery, the battle stations. They're all built in.
Cool. I'm going to give us all a closer look at the 6 factions that will be represented straight off the bat in Task Force. So if I just start bringing them up, you can fill us in.
Yep. So we've got the Directorate there. So you've got they've got a escort carrier and cruiser and light frigates. That's their bag. The light frigates and the sorry.
I've just moved on past.
No,
I'll go back.
That's okay. Sorry. The cruiser and the escort carrier are kind of you can swap out the top component piece on the hull to basically
which is something really cool, and we will get to that.
Yeah, no, well, again, it was one of those things where the model makers was sort of again, it's digital, so one of my guys said, well, why don't we put the magnet holes in?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, actually, why not? Why don't we put the magnet holes in? So we looked at making them models. So we wanted to make new models for these boxes anyway. And we thought while we were at it,
So this is all new sculpts we're looking at?
Yeah, it's all brand new, yeah. So, and it's the start of a new generation of ships for the game. So, and like I said, there's an awful lot of models we've already made, but this is very much the new generation.
I'll just move us on.
Yeah. That's our Dindrenzi Federation. So again, the cruiser, which is the ship at the front of that picture, you can take the top off it, and you keep the base, and you can turn it into a carrier.
Cool.
At the top. The light frigate stays as a light frigate. There wasn't much point trying to make that modular.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah. Ceruleans, they're very much into their broadsides and forward-firing weapons, so they are cruisers to gunships. So they basically they're all about kind of more forward kinetic weaponry firing. So there's again new generation, new modular ships. Well, my personal new favourites actually the Relthosa. It took us a little while to get the feel for the Relthosa right in the game overall, but these are probably the best example of our spider race.
Well, they're quite different looking from the rest of the factions. A lot of the factions sort of, if there's a correct way to fly, it's like this. Whereas they're horizontal or vertical.
Yeah, I always wanted a vertical fleet like that. It was something that I targeted, and again we like I say we've had to go at them a number of 3 times now, and I think this time we've actually finally got them right.
I like all the hard edges and stuff and the way you've highlighted it. It's really cool looking.
Yeah, no, they're lovely. There's there's lots of detail on the models to pick up on that. They are very, very easy to paint.
Cool. Right, moving on.
Yeah.
I like this faction a lot, actually. This one kind of appeals to me a lot.
The Terran Alliance. So they are, if anybody's bad in my universe, it's these guys.
These are bad guys!
In fact, they in the storyline, they nuked one of their the homeworlds of the Dindrenzi, so they are...
All right, yeah, so they're pretty nasty people.
They're not good, yeah. We've actually we've been developing a 2-player box set for that, which is kind of our first historical box, for want of a better expression, which is going back in the timeline of the game to build a box that is all about the nuking of the Dindrenzi homeworld.
Some people out there are probably rubbing their hands together, going, "That's what I want. That's what I wanted."
The fans of the Dindrenzi and the Terran, the fans of the Dindrenzi particularly, will love that box set. It's very cool actually in terms of the storyline it tells, which is we're enjoying. But no, the Terrans are good fun. They're awesome. Good fun.
And then I like this as well. This is really punchy looking. What you've done with this faction.
The Aquan Prime, yeah, they're the aquatic ones. I mean, again, it's fun because we wanted to get the feel of the true aquatic feeling between the cruisers and
they look a bit like flying whales, but they're not whales, if you know.
Yeah. And I think the colour scheme helps on that as well. It's interesting. I like the little frigates actually. The frigates are one of my favourites.
Yeah, but what I'm going to show you now is one of the cool things is while we're looking at this faction, I have one of these ships here in front of me, and if I just bring it up,
excuse me.
Close, watch this, right? So this is part of the redesign process. Allowed us to do this. Let me just dismantle it, take it all apart, and as you were saying, Neil, magnetize your stuff, and then you've got different options, so you can build more ships. Yeah,
well, basically, the guy behind this, Chris PC, he wanted to look at how we did things like how do we make things into heavy cruisers, how do we make them into battle cruisers, how do we make them into different variations. So a lot of the idea was that we could basically remove the models and take them all apart as you've just done there.
That's a ship in itself there.
That is the cruiser, yeah. That's it.
And then all I need to do is put this bit on, and I've changed it to a different type of spaceship.
Then it becomes a carrier, yeah.
Which is really cool. And I have another example from the evil faction, as you'd like to call them. And this is really cool too. So if I just take the lid off,
yeah.
What happens? Is this a ship, or does this need extra?
No, that would need the torpedo cruiser top on it.
Okay.
So we'll probably put the hull on first.
Yes, put the hull on first.
Yeah, and then basically you put the drops in. There is there's different drops that go in there. You got to line them up.
There we go.
And basically now you've got a Perseus cruiser. Whereas if you put the missile top on it, it becomes a harpoon, and that's what we do. Is we have a new inset that goes in the middle, which is a targeting system. So yeah, we can, we've got different drops that can associate. It kind of almost takes us into a what you see is what you get approach with the models.
Yeah.
And again, we're working on at the moment the battleships, and so things like the Terran battleship converts into a battle carrier.
Yeah. Well, while we're looking at them, I'll just quickly show you some other stuff that's just sort of sitting here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll nudge that.
Yeah, you nudge it, line it up. So that's Directorate. So that's as it currently is. It's an escort carrier. But if the top section is removed and the guns are put on, it becomes a cruiser.
Cool. We have.
Yeah, I didn't actually bring the top for that one yet. So that's the Dendrenzi Federation cruiser.
Yeah. And
the top can remove on that, and it can become an escort carrier.
Cool. And then we have your personal favourites.
And I'm pretty sure that's the gunship variant. So lots of torpedoes and forward firing weapons. Yeah, I love those guys. And
excellent, because we have we have an array of them all sitting here. And if I set them all side by side, for example, sort of like this, they all look really quite unique.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate in as much as the game's been around for a while, so we've been able to kind of mature with the aesthetic and also kind of learn how to start them up and build the races, and whenever we add new races to it, we've always got a kind of a baseline to design to.
Yeah.
It also allows us to sort of to focus hard on how the alliances work. So there's a lot of work going on with the game at the moment. There's a lot of things being in development for it. We've got things like the huge big Leviathans coming out, which are the biggest ships we've ever made for Firestorm.
Oh yes. What are we talking about? Because I mean,
it depends. I mean, anything from 26 centimeters to 32 centimeters in length.
Cool. Really cool stuff.
They're big, and some of them, some of them go that way, and some of them go that way. So they're big. I mean, they're fun additions to a fleet, but they're very much, I wouldn't expect anybody to turn up at a tournament with one of those. I would anticipate this is the sort of thing whereby players who love their faction we would see them buying them from a narrative point of view.
Okay.
They can play them. Obviously, they're all going to be statted up when they play them, but and they're all linked into an expansion of the campaign. But they have it. Lots of spaceships.
Cool. Right. Let's do a recap. So,
yep.
Firestorm Task Force.
Yep.
3 different variants of box set.
Yep.
You get 2 factions in each box set.
Yep.
You get the rule book.
Yep.
You get those 2 cards that we've looked at.
You get stat sheets, tokens. You get scenery, and you get dice, and you get an acrylic measuring stick as well, and which also works out your firing angles.
So everything you need to get up and running.
Basically, yeah.
Perfect.
We think so.
Really excited to see it. Cheers. Thanks again, Neil, for coming on and giving us an update on what you're doing with Firestorm.
No.
And a nice look at what you've done with Firestorm Task Force.
Thanks very much for having me. Cheers, guys.
Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com. Progress comes to a world of magic as science and the arcane combine to make marvels. Meet steampunk inventors and orc mystics at the Volsung Hub on beastsofwar.com.
Awesome stuff. Awesome sauce. I really like the fact that they've made modular ships and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a couple of years ago, I actually built a full fleet of these. Very, very nice ships to work with.
Yeah, so you're looking forward to the Task Force as well?
I'm looking forward to the Task Force. It might finally get Warren to drag out his fleet as well to actually get some games against them.
Cool. Right, anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that because we've talked a lot about that.
Aye.
I'm going to move us on. We have James Johnson, a.k.a. Oriskany from the website, and here to talk to us.
Yep.
Hello, James.
Hey, how you doing, everyone?
He's here to talk to us all about a new article series that him and Chris G from the website have been working on. That's Chris Goddard, I believe, isn't it?
Yep, that's correct.
So, James, this new article series is going to kick off on Monday, and it's focusing on the American War of Independence. What's driving you to make an article series all about that?
Well, it's a conflict, obviously, for anyone who lives in the United States. It's very close to their heart. A lot of what I think it means to be an American, whatever that means nowadays, I think is wrapped up in the American Revolution, or the War of Independence, if you prefer. And I grew up around a lot of the battlefields, and it didn't seem to be a conflict that was getting a lot of wargaming love in the industry too much. which is kind of strange because the battles are so small in comparative to like Napoleonics or American Civil War that it seems to be a perfect fit for miniature gaming.
Cool. Right. Before we get too far into it, James, let's see a little video. You've put it together, a little video that's explaining where the article's going to go. It's a 6-part article series, isn't it?
A 5-part.
5-part over the next few weeks. Have a look at this.
Good day, Beasts of War. My name is James Johnson. You probably know me better on the site as Oriskany. And I wanted to talk to you today to introduce a great new series of articles that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks about wargaming in the American Revolution, or the American War of Independence, if you prefer. Now, my good friend Chris Goddard, that's Chris G, and I have been slaving away over the last couple of weeks on these articles. And as they roll out over the next couple of weeks, we really hope that you take some time, you check it out, and you like what we come up with. Okay, so one of the first things Chris and I wanted to get straight when starting this article series was the question of perspective. Believe it or not, even 240 years on, the American Revolution can still stir up some feelings and some serious emotions. So this was going to be especially true since so many Beasts of War subscribers are, of course, living in the UK or the US. So with Chris being a good Yorkshire Englishman and myself a proud American, what we've done here is present these battles in sort of an alternating perspective, with, say, myself presenting a given battle from the Patriot perspective, and then Chris writing about the same engagement from the Crown's point of view. Sometimes we're a little tongue-in-cheek with this, maybe a little over the top in a funny way. Maybe we're just hoping to get some transatlantic Brits versus Yanks rivalry going here, but in the end we're just trying to have some fun with it. Another aspect of perspective we're going for here are the different levels of wargaming we'll be playing, and taking a look at the American War of Independence from these different levels. Starting from the highest levels, we'll be looking at the war from an operational perspective using Avalon Hill's classic 1776 wargame. This kind of game puts the whole 13 colonies on one table, with each turn representing a month of time, and each game piece perhaps up to 20,000 men, although that's kind of an extreme case. One game can recreate the entire war from Lexington all the way to Yorktown, although, of course, that depends on how your game goes. We'll also be looking at certain battles with a command tactical perspective. Basically, this is where this is like a tactical game like any others you might see on Beasts of War, except here one piece represents much more than a single man. These are the kinds of games you use when playing battles like Waterloo, where of course you can't realistically set up 200,000 miniatures. So we'll be using this kind of game for bigger revolution battles like Breeds Hill, Brandywine, Saratoga, Monmouth, and so on. Now, never fear, we'll also be presenting plenty of work with miniatures. The third wargaming level that we'll be using will be battle scale games with Chris Goddard's 6mm miniatures. I know 6mm may be a smaller scale than many players are used to, but believe me, this is the kind of scale that you need to properly do a battle in the American Revolution. Compared to Napoleonic or American Civil War battles, the American Revolution engagement is positively puny by comparison. I think the biggest one was Monmouth, with about 25,000 total troops on both sides. That's only about 15% the size of Waterloo. But to even do a small part of one of these very small revolution battles properly, with the actual geometries, ranges, force levels, composition and cooperation of arms like dragoons or infantry and artillery, you're really going to need a gaming table that's got some scope. You need some miniatures that can accommodate that, because you're going to be working with some serious numbers, distances, and you're going to need some elbow room. Finally, we'll also be working with some smaller skirmish level action in 20mm, primarily using muskets and tomahawks by Studio Tomahawk. While our focus is going to remain on wargaming, doing whatever we can to provide insight, hints, background, pro tips, maybe even some inspiration for playing in the American Revolution,
We'll also be trying to clear up some of the mythological haze and distortions that cloud many people's understanding of this conflict. For instance, we're going to be going far beyond the American blue versus British red model with which many gamers may be familiar. There were, of course, huge numbers of Americans who remained loyal to the crown and fought fiercely alongside the British. Some of the bloodiest battles in this war, including one named, you guessed it, Oriskany, was fought almost entirely between Americans on both sides, with barely a British officer within 20 miles. German Americans fought against Hessian mercenaries. The French were involved, the Spanish, the Dutch even were soon involved. There are 6 different Native American tribes involved just from the Iroquois Confederacy. 4 of these fought for the crown, 2 joined the war on the side of the Patriot rebels, and yes, they did fight each other. The series will be presented in 5 parts. Part 1 will take a quick overview of the war's causes and ideologies. We're not trying to get involved in the politics here, we're just trying to provide some proper background and narrative for the soldiers we'll have represented on our tables. The first engagements at Lexington and Concord will be examined, as well as the furious battle along the Boston Road that followed. Part 2 looks at the initial engagements, starting with the Battle of Breed's Hill, sometimes called Bunker Hill, the British invasion of New York, and the American miracle at Trenton. Part 3 is going to close out the central theater of the war with the British victory at Brandywine, which results in the fall of Philadelphia, and followed by the Battle of Monmouth, the biggest land battle of the war. Part 4 looks at my personal favorite, the Northern Theater. This includes the American invasion of Canada, the British counter-invasion down Lake Champlain, the Battle of Valcour Island. This is one of the oddest naval fleet battles you'll ever see. And finally, the decisive summer campaign of 1777 in upstate New York, including battles like Oriskany and 1st and 2nd Freeman's Farm, which is usually shortened into the Battle of Saratoga. Part 5 closes out the series with a look at the war's global dimension, with battles as far away as the English Channel, Spain, the Siege of Gibraltar, the Caribbean, even India of all places. And finally, the campaign in the Southern American colonies wraps up at the fateful encounter at Yorktown, where the war finally comes to a close. So there you have it, Beasts of War. Just a quick outline of what we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks. No matter what side of the water you happen to live on, the US or the UK, we hope that you take a couple minutes. We hope you check it out. We hope you like it. That's it for now. Just remember, liberty or death.
Awesome stuff there, James. It looks like you and Chris have been really working hard on this series. So, James, from a history point of view then, I'm looking forward to following this series of articles because I've always been kind of interested in the American War of Independence, but I've never bothered to actually read up on it. This could be my jumping point into a greater knowledge, and perhaps even you can convince me to start trying to play some historical stuff, even at 6 mil. Who knows?
That's quite a mountain to climb. Well, that's great because the article series, I mean, it's a 5-part series, so we're able to cover pretty much from the beginning of the war to the very end of the war. So yeah, it would be a great jumping off point. Obviously, with only 5 parts and 8 years of conflict, we're not able to get into too much detail.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be a great place to get started.
Cool. Now, one of the talking points I want to bring up is, I like the fact that you're starting off with an article actually describing what the events were that caused the war. I don't want to go into it too much because I don't want to steal the thunder from the article, but I think it's important that you ground us in what's actually caused the conflict.
Yeah, like I said, we didn't want to get too much into the politics, like I said in the video, but one of the things that Chris and I really wanted to work on and drive home was that it wasn't this simple, red versus blue, British versus Americans. Over here in the States, it's always those redcoats. It's always the redcoats are the bad guys. It wasn't like that at all. There were a lot of Americans on both sides of the conflict. There were a lot of other nations on both sides of the conflict. So we wanted to get at least a quick drive-by on, why this war was fought. And just to make sure that there was some kind of narrative and background for the games that we'd be playing.
Absolutely, and that's one of the key things that's interesting to me about the article series is I'm going to find out more about people's motivations for fighting. Like, why would Americans be fighting against Americans? Why? One of the key things that I find interesting was you mentioned in the video about an American invasion of Canada.
Wait,
and I'm thinking, that's really interesting.
Okay, I missed this bit. America invaded Canada?
America invaded Canada they started in September of 1775. Now, this is kind of a salient point. Americans didn't declare their own independence until July, famously, 4th, 1776.
Yeah,
right.
So we invaded another country before we even declared that we were a country ourselves.
Well, without giving too much away, why? It's okay, we can talk about it for a little bit. We weren't able to get too much into this in the article series because the actual Battle of Quebec would be very tough to do in miniature. You basically have to build the city of Quebec. But as far as why goes, Canada, you gotta remember, all of Canada, the 13 colonies out to near where Dawn and Gianna live, basically out to modern day Illinois, Indiana, out west, down to the Caribbean, all through that area. That was mostly just British America. It was one big mass of British colonial holdings. Yeah.
So the idea, we think of America and Canada today as very clearly and very distinct countries. That's Canada, that's America. There's a big line in the middle.
Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't like that. It was just, this is everything that is British America, and some pieces of it were falling away. And late in 1775, the Massachusetts Committee of Safety said, you know what? The British have a very strong power base up there in Quebec. They fought a major battle for it in the French and Indian War. They might come at us from that direction. We've got 13 colonies. Why not go for an even 14? And they came that close. there almost isn't a Canada because of how that battle turned out.
But that's one of the other interesting aspects is, like you say today, they're very defined. This is the United States and this is Canada. It's
you have to remember the world map would have been a lot different back then.
I have trouble wrapping my head around a United States that isn't a United States. It's 13 colonies. I can't really picture in my mind. Is 13 colonies? Are those 13 colony states, or were there different states inside the 13 colonies? It's a struggle for me to picture America at that point in time.
Well, at this point in time, in the 1760s and 1770s, when they say 13 states, they mean states like the UK, France, Germany, Spain. It's literally almost like the European Union is today.
Yeah.
It's a confederation of states that do have a unifying body, but it is woefully weak. Even after the war ended, we didn't have a constitution yet. They called it the Articles of Confederation.
Yeah.
It was literally 13 different countries that happened to be allied. It was by no means a United States yet.
Okay,
so
that's interesting.
So they weren't actually it wasn't like Texas and Washington and stuff like that. They were. Did that come afterwards? No,
it was the original 13 colonies are all along the eastern seaboard. It's not even all of them. Like where I live in Florida was still owned by Britain at the time. It was not one of the original 13 colonies. It goes from New Hampshire down south to South Carolina, and there really even wasn't a western border. It was just, okay, here's the water, here are some big cities. When I say big cities, I mean like 10,000 people, 20,000 people. And then it just kind of gets farmland, and then lots of woods. Then eventually you start running into Native Americans, and if you look at at a period map of the period, there are no western borders, even of those very first 13 colonies along the seaboard.
Fascinating stuff. And more fascinating for me is the idea of there being, you touched on it in the video, sea battles and stuff for the likes of, what is it, Valcour Island?
Valcour Island, yes.
Fascinating, a sea battle.
Well, this is it here that's going to be an article.
Technically, it's a battle on a lake.
Yeah.
It wasn't at a sea, and the reason I bring that up is part of what was so interesting about that is that's a huge lake. I've described it in some of the threads as it's America's Loch Ness.
Yes.
It's a very, very long lake. It's very deep. It's between two big mountain chains. It supposedly even has a sea monster. It has, I think they call him Champy. I'm not kidding. There's people think that, I took a picture of our own American Loch Ness monster. But anyway, it's way up in the middle of nowhere even today. I mean, I've been to most of these battlefields. Even today, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Back then, it was really in the middle of nowhere. And to the point where the British had to sail their ships down like the St. Lawrence River. Yeah. Take them apart, number all the pieces, drag them 100 miles through the woods. There wasn't even a road.
Oh my goodness, that's effort.
They get to the northern part of the lake and they put everything back together, and that's their fleet.
So how did they get peace to actually put their stuff back together whenever they've dragged it 100 miles? I mean,
well, it was easier. Well, number one, it was about 10,000 men. It took them about 6 months.
Aye.
And the fleet was very, very. I mean, there was one British frigate there, HMS Inflexible.
Okay.
And this thing was like the Death Star in that battle because it was a very small ship, but compared to everything else that they could get there, it was huge.
Okay, so we weren't seeing a man of war.
From scratch.
I have to remember that if it's taken them months to get somewhere with their ship, whoever's coming after them is probably taking months to get there as well. It's not like today where you can just fly a jet over and go, let's attack that.
It's a very gentlemanly affair whenever you say, okay, I've got ships here, you've got ships there. Let's fight here. Okay, give us 6 months to get our stuff into position, and we're good to go.
You think that's how that went? Okay, fair enough. And then the other, just staying with the who fought who sort of side of things of the article series that's coming up. It's interesting to hear you say that in the video that there's battles not just in the Americas, but in the likes of India, for example. Who the heck is fighting who in India?
Okay, well. Where do I start with this? Again, without giving away too much of the article, Great Britain had a great number of enemies at this time of their history. They had just fought and really won badly. Yeah. The 7 Years' War. This is like barely 15, 20 years ago. So when this war gets started, there are a lot of people in Europe, much more powerful nations than America was at the time, obviously, that were really looking for some payback. And at first, this war got started in the Americas, and Britain was winning all the battles, so nobody thought very much of it. Obviously, they're much more powerful than the American rebels are. But then once America starts winning some battles, the real trigger was the Battle of Saratoga, or the first and second battles of Freeman's Farm. Once that battle takes place, and Britain really suffers her first big-time defeat, other countries say, wait a minute, this might be our chance to get some payback. Great Britain is overextended. She's in debt. She's got half her army halfway around the world. She's got all these other problems. Now is the time for us to jump in and get some skin in this game. So right away you get the French. After that come the Spanish. The Dutch eventually get involved. Pretty soon it's the 7 Years' War, the sequel, almost. Except Prussia never gets involved, but you basically get this world war that gets going. And so all of a sudden Great Britain has all these other problems that are honestly much bigger than whether or not they could still control the American colonies. The American colonies were important to them. They were very intent on holding on to them. But once other aspects of the British Empire come under threat, like the really rich islands in the Caribbean, the Caribbean in the 1770s was basically the Persian Gulf of the day. All the money in the world was really in the Caribbean, and they pulled a lot of their forces out of America. Things got very easy for us all of a sudden. Well, not easy for us, but much easier for us all of a sudden. And this much greater, this big global battle got started. And that's the interesting part, because obviously America did win our little part of that war, but Britain wound up winning just about everywhere else. So when the final papers were signed, Great Britain was like, okay, whatever, here, America, have your little independence. We'll count our millions of pounds over here because we just took over the rest of the planet. Effectively,
Imagine, James, if they'd had a crystal ball and they could look into it today and go, whoops, maybe we should do this differently.
Well, I mean, like the period of war you're actually fighting at the minute for the American War of Independence is a very interesting period of history for actual warfare as well, because you still had guys running around on horseback doing cavalry charges. You had firearms finally coming into battle, but them not really knowing how to use them properly yet. So you still had guys.
Well, no, they've been using firearms for ages. Because
I know, but they still had blocks of men marching toward each other.
I know what you mean. They had firearms for ages because of the Napoleonic Wars and stuff. What you're driving at is they were still lining up and letting themselves be shot. And today, modern people looking back look at it.
Get
and go,
into cover.
It just looks insane to fight in that manner.
I mean, it feels like a very civilized kind of warfare.
That's partially true. A couple of quick points. The main British or the main American weapon as well. The main weapon that both sides were using to fight this war was what they called the Brown Bess musket. This was kind of the AK-47 of the 18th century. I mean, everybody was using it. It was around for 100 years. Notoriously inaccurate. You couldn't hit anything past like 100 feet, maybe. And that's the reason why the main tactics of the day were to mass these blocks of men together or lines of men together and blast away at each other at 100 feet. It looks insane to us today, like you guys were saying. And a big part of it is because, like in a lot of these movies, they'll show two lines of men getting together, and then they'll blast away at each other, and like half of the men on each side will fall over. It wasn't like that at all. The Battle of Cowpens went on. It was like 3,000 men total on both sides. They shot at each other pretty much all day, and at the end of the day, the Americans lost 12 casualties.
What? Okay.
You see that just
Hollywood, you've lied to me again.
that just amazes me.
But that's got to be some
Hold on a
damn
minute.
inaccuracy.
If you're only killing 12 men, why did they not just go back
That
to
is an
swords?
extreme example. In all honesty, that's an extreme example. But I mean, the British wound up losing like 100, and then we captured a bunch more. But yeah, the weapons are horribly inaccurate.
Yeah.
Now, what does happen is the Americans very quickly come to the realization that they'll never really beat the British, muzzle to muzzle, out in the open in these lines of battles. So they start fighting in what they called Indian tactics at the day, and this is where the rifle comes in.
Yes.
This is one of the first wars in which not really the first, but one of the first wars in which rifled firearms really started to come into play.
Yes.
And we got started. You start getting ranges out to 300 meters, 400 meters. Very few men, and the weapon has a lot of drawbacks. It's got 1/3 the rate of fire. It can't take the bayonet. So rifle units, and this is important in the wargaming aspect because these rifle units are great as long as the enemy is a certain distance away. Once the enemy gets within 30 yards or so, you better start running because he's going to charge you with bayonets, and you've got nothing to fight him with. And you're going to be massacred. And that happened a couple times. Rifle units were just wiped out. Once an enemy could get close enough to close to some sort of melee attack.
They essentially have a spear. You're running around with a club, essentially. That's the end of the day. What you're seeing here.
I love that. Let's distill it down, Justin. Spear versus club. That's where you are on this.
If it can't take a bayonet, putting a bayonet onto a rifle essentially turns it into a spear.
So they didn't like it up them.
Oh,
So
don't
they
do
ran
that
away.
bit. Wrong war, wrong period.
All right, Justin, I believe you want to talk about like the sort of miniatures and the scales and stuff that the guys are going to be exploring.
It's something that James does a lot. He plays around with the different levels of combat you're looking at. So you have sort of the grand campaign map for one of the levels.
Yes.
Where you can play out the entire war in one game. Now that I really like the idea of. You can really see those big titanic clashes that you're going to see.
Yes.
You then step down to sort of a divisional level fight where you're actually moving full armies across a tabletop. So the 6mm wargaming that you're on about.
Yes.
And then you can go right down to the nitty-gritty where you're playing 20mm, which I really like the idea of because it's just, you're fighting in your neighbour's field, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, the 20mm stuff from Tomahawk looks great, James.
Yeah.
Is that your work? You've been working away at that, and I know that Chris G then, it was his 6mm stuff you were playing with, was it?
Yes. Yeah, those were all his 6mm figures.
Awesome stuff. If Chris is originally British, is he living in the States? Is that how you've managed to coordinate on this, or how does that work?
We met on Beasts of War.
Yeah?
Yep.
But is Chris living in the States at the minute?
Nope. Okay, so what'll happen is that I'll play the 20mm games over here with my group over there, and he's setting up and photographing his 6mm games over there in the UK.
Cool
That's very
stuff.
cool.
Right, Justin.
Yeah.
20mm stuff then.
Aye.
It did look really good, and that
It does
is
look
that
really
is that
good.
the one that's appealing to you most?
It's
then is
appealing to me because at the minute in my hobby time, I'm looking for smaller games, lighter miniature count that's manageable for me to get through and actually get the painting work done on.
it? Yes.
So yes, 6mm might look amazing, which you're thinking of doing.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a lot of work just going through all of that and all of the basing. No, I'm not doing all of that basing.
I do struggle because I'm looking at the 6mm stuff and I find it fascinating the way 6mm can portray an entire big battle. But then I look at the 20mm stuff and I go, it just looks really nice what you've done with it, James.
I think it's going to be manageable, but I think having that overall battle that you can play, across the entire continent would be cool as well. Because you remember James did us the World War II one they actually brought in, and that's sort of at that level. I would love to see that again, where we could actually play out the American War of Independence in that same style of game.
Okay. Awesome stuff, James. Your first article is coming out on Monday, so watch out for that. It's a 5-part series. Is it going out once a week, or what's the do you know what the schedule is?
I think 1 part per Monday. They'll be coming out.
Awesome stuff. Right, I'm going to move us on because we have a jam-packed show. Justin, we had Prodos in the studio. We had Jarek.
Yeah, Jarek
in the studio.
Jarek from Prodos was in the studio. Basically, myself and Warren sat down for a bit of a chat about what's been happening with Prodos. Just getting a bit of update of what's happening with AVP, Warzone, and Space Crusade, of course. And we actually have a bit of a prize to give away in this show as well, which I'll mention, which is some of the latest stuff that's coming out of Prodos. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Awesome stuff. Right, let's check it out.
Become a general of mighty armies at the Kings of War Hub. Take command of elves, dwarves, and orcs in this game of masked fantasy combat on beastsofwar.com. In a world controlled by massive corporations, a steady aim and split-second decisions are needed for your MegaCon to complete its goals. Begin your missions at the Mercs Hub on beastsofwar.com.
Hey everybody! Right, so I've managed to track down one of the more controversial men in wargaming. Hey Jarek, it's Jarek from Prodos.
Hello.
Jarek, it's great to have you on the show. I want to chat through some of the stuff that you're currently working on. Clearly, I'm going to start with the AVP. It looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel now. You're getting to the other end, but obviously we know that there's been a lot going on with the whole AVP thing since its initial launch on Kickstarter through to now, which is hopefully the final stages of all the fulfillment of it. Do you want to give us a quick insight into what actually happened to the Kickstarter? Where did the complexity and the fulfillment of all of this start to creep in?
Yeah, there is there's several factors which actually affected the whole Kickstarter fulfillment and then slow it down the whole process. Maybe we will start with the website first, the Kickstarter website itself. So obviously we needed to take it down, and we provide all the explanation during the Kickstarter or forum via Kickstarter Messenger to all the backers and also on our Facebook. As you know, the main reason why we actually needed to take it down, it was a little bit of our lack of experience in terms of working with this big license as it is, and big corporation, Fox Corporation. So we have been showing some images, which they've been web images. Now, there was not that much, at the beginning when we start this project, there was not that much problem with it. But later on, we find out this is not what Fox expected from us. And as you know, on the Kickstarter, when you post some images in the update, in the Kickstarter update, you got only half an hour to change anything you want in that update. So basically, we've been posting some images which Fox wasn't happy about it. And as it was, later we find out it was actually validated a bit of contract. They said we have to put everything straight. So we needed to close the website down until we fixed the issues. Now, we closed the website down. I was myself contacting the Kickstarter asking them to take it down, and they did it for us. Obviously, the Kickstarter doesn't have any other way of closing it apart of saying this IP dispute, and so that's what they did. We've been trying to work with them, Kickstarter, to change all the images and put all the relevant missing logos and things like that, but they said, no, that's impossible. They don't have this platform built-in to actually do that. So that was the main reason why the website was down and was taken off. Then we move on to all the process of development and approval. So when we pitched this license for the first time, when we see Fox in the UK, the approval process was very quick, very rapid. So we were very excited about, finally we got product, we're gonna get product, and all the add-ons available to go out of the door as soon as possible, and that's great. I mean, this is what we expected, this is what we need. as a company, and that's going to be a great product. What we find out in the course of development is it doesn't work like that. So as the people who are watching this one now, some of our Kickstarter backers know, we have game ready in September 2014. So the game was ready there. We show all the working prototype, but there was actually manufacturing prototype. So it was ready to push the button and go ahead and actually develop the product. Yeah. However, we released the product almost 1 year later. Now, the reason why we released the product 1 year later, it was taking that long to go through the full process of approval, which we were not aware of at the beginning. Yeah. So we were not aware we have to provide all this technical information about the material we're going to use. We were not aware that product must have all those certificates to make sure it meets everything, that it will be protecting, the product will be enough safe that Fox is able to put the logo on it, on the product, right? So we need to provide all of that, lab tests and things like that. So it's just unbelievable amount of materials we needed to do before we got the green light and go ahead. So this information we're not sharing with publicly people because there was no really need for that. It's something we've been working very hard in the background to actually get to it. Now the main problem with the Kickstarter was then once we actually managed to get the board game approved, we were just saying, well, asking for guys, but we need now all those add-ons because people obviously pledge for the board game plus the add-ons, and all the backers, Kickstarter backers, pay just for one shipping. So what we like to do is just send everything in one go instead of actually splitting the shipping because it's going to cost us a fortune. Yeah. Now, and that this is where it all happened, and this is all the problems really started. So the problem started from the wave shipping, basically. The financial problem is there, obviously, because this is a lot of money. We're talking about roughly £75,000 extra on top of expenses we didn't account it for. So we needed to generate some revenue, some extra profit. Well, not extra, but generate the profit and use all the profit from our sales to put into shipping to make sure the Kickstarter is fulfilled. So there was other problems like manufacturing issues. We had quite a lot of that, as always, because we basically, as a Prodos, never manufactured the board game. This is the first time when we pitched this one, like board game, and instead of starting with something small and like 300, 400 quantities, we went with a full steam ahead. And finally, we find out
you got gamer excitement, yeah.
We just engineers, believe me, we get excited about many things, but not in the way we should as a business. Well, but in general, that was the problem. The other problem was manufacturing. When we start with 2013 with initial quotes, how much the board game will cost, it was X. Now 2 years later, it's 35% more and things like that. So we needed to generate more money to actually fulfill this Kickstarter. I mean, it sounds everything magic to many people could sound. I mean, at the end of the day, this is only the backer paid money, so he expects the product to be delivered, and we're doing the best we can from our Prodos perspective, from the company perspective, to meet that goal and then finally take it off and forget about it. I mean, there's something I mentioned in one of my posts a long time ago. It's we're very aware that AVP is, in one hand, it's actually a great product. The other hand is basically massive scar on the Prodos name, which was bleeding us out a lot. Now we finally managed to put all the plasters in, okay? But even if you remove the plaster, the scar will stay there. So it's a massive cut, bleeding cut, basically. So I think finally we have, we're finishing wave 2 now, which should be finished by March. If we're not finished by March, by April definitely, because we have to get ourselves prepared for Saluton. So it'll be a small stop on that. And then we're going to move to wave 3, which is just basically just the miniatures what left. So everybody should have the board game and the second wave, and then just wave 3 what left.
Is all the approval processes now finished, Jarek, or are you still working through some approval processes? Yes, so the approval process, and some people asking a question, if you have miniatures approved in 2013, what's stopping you to actually ship those miniatures? The product, in order to ship, I'll show you, this is the Youngblood box. So in order to ship Youngbloods, for instance, as a product, we have to get approved this packaging. So every single line, everything what is in the packaging, everything what is on it needs to be approved. There is no product without packaging. Okay, approved that packaging. We are able to ship it as a Kickstarter package without, because this is what we
what we say that people are going to get. But to get in a system, in the Fox system approved product, we have to go through the full 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 steps.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the 10th steps, you got like tick off. Okay, you have a product now, right? Without that, we don't have a product now.
Yeah.
So I know we're shipping the product without the packaging because obviously we're compacting everything in a smaller space just to not only save on the shipping, but also make sure we actually can have capacity to get it out to the Kickstarter backers. But this is the full process. So miniatures, cards, and everything has been approved long ago. In 2014, sorry, that was 2014. So roughly even before we had before September 2014 when we had a board game ready done. We once we had approval on the board game, the Fox told us, okay, now we have a board game. We're gonna give you approval on the miniatures, the add-on bits. However, we can't give you you can't send me the line of 20 of them because this is too much to actually get approved. Send me 2 or 3 maximum pieces every month. So you see that's another problem. If we follow this logic of approval only 3 months, we would have to split some of the backers Kickstarter delivery into 5 shipments or even 6 shipments because they select every single product from the line, and then once we got approval, we have to start shipping. So this is another problem which we face. We said, okay, let's stop it now. I mean, we've been releasing the products, the minimum number of products which we needed to release, we have been releasing. And for the last 6 months, we've been getting approval on the final products, which needs to be got out. And we haven't released any of them to the public. So what we're going to do, we're going to build up that level of the product, approved product, and then release again slowly, but post shipping to the people. Okay, so we're trying to go back to the original plan when we said everybody's gonna get before it's actually hit the stores. So just something very important maybe to say about why Prodos actually sells in the stores before actually backers got it, or why was the process. You have to bear in mind this is the licensed product and this is the product. We bonded with contract basically. The contract says once we have a green light, you have to show how the progress of this product is in terms of sales. Now, if we took the step back and we said, okay, no more, we got just focus on one aspect like Kickstarter, we wouldn't be able to do absolutely at least nothing because we would have to get board game approved. Then every single add-on every 2 or 3 months, that would be the process of probably another year. So looking a year back, obviously, another year before we actually ship anything else. And I'm not sure I'm definitely sure that the license owner wouldn't be happy about us having the product which is not released, it's not in shops, and would be probably end up very badly for us losing the license and meaning no Kickstarter will be fulfilled. So
I think it's important to realize because we see a lot of this. The backers on various Kickstarters. Not understanding that whenever you go, this is all manufacturing. It's all numbers, guys. When these guys are maybe getting say 4,000 manufactured to do a Kickstarter, even if you weren't contractually obliged to send it into stores, Yark, it just makes sense to double the order because you're shipping into distributors is so much easier than all the in-house bit by bit packing and processing and stuff like that to get out Kickstarter. So it's big opportunities for large chunks of monies. But because I wonder sometimes if these guys that are saying nothing should be shipped, especially when a project runs into trouble, when a small company hits a project, because you can see one thing, delay is the killer of companies because delay has compound effects right across because while things are delayed, costs go up, staff leave, all sorts of things happen that suddenly a project that was self-contained starts to spiral, and it's like pushing water uphill. And whenever all a small business can do is try to trade its way through that, because the business has to remain healthy, otherwise nobody gets anything and everybody loses.
Probably you guys don't know what is Prodos. Prodos is not only one company. Prodos is actually 4 different companies, and we do miniatures for others. We fulfill about 12 different Kickstarters so far. You probably got your Prodos made models from many of the Kickstarter on your shelf, not even knowing about that. We are a cat company, so we have separate company which deals with CAD, which is part of Prodos as well. We have a company which it's our so-called, we call this one third leg. It's something which is in completely different commodity, which produce product and sells to customers, which generate quite good profit to actually put back into gaming and wargaming to, to Prodos to increase number of releases and the products and all those things. I mean, miniatures itself, really, it's great to actually make it. Great to be in this hobby, but I'm coaching other people who thinks it's so easy to go and make Kickstarter and you're gonna be making millions, so on, so on. No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
If you start thinking about the manufacturing, if you don't have a setup manufacturing by yourselves, really, I don't think you're gonna be ever having a big company run. So that's only one thing. And to set up your own manufacturing, we're talking about a huge money. This is development of process. You have to develop chemicals. You have to develop, procedures. You have to make sure the people doing what's supposed to do. I mean, we've been learning this one for 2 years to actually get where we are in terms of actually resin casting and metal, because we'd also do metals. But it's not that simple like people can actually see. So that's what it is.
It's also very interesting that working with licensors is not easy, and deliberately so. Licensors are all about the protection of brands and intellectual property. So we may say, oh, we wish this could go quicker, but the reason those brands are as popular as they are is because of the protections and stuff that they put in place. And I hear this from multiple sources throughout the industry, these same things, that there's an awful lot of hoops to jump through. But the thing you have to remember is the Prodos, any one of the other people that have secured major licenses, to those licensing companies like Fox or whatever else, they are a rounding error in terms of the amount of money that they provide compared to video game companies and stuff like that. So this business of only getting approval on small amounts at a time is because these big companies only have a certain amount of resource within their licensing department. So they may have thousands of staff, but you may find that there's only a small amount of staff within the licensing department, and what they're trying to do is to do approvals across things from lunch boxes, pencil cases, video games. So what you find is that they can't afford within that department to over-service
one segment.
Even if they love the product, what they'll find is that they will find that their team leaders and stuff will say, you're over-servicing that company. You slow that down because you're removing focus from other bigger areas. They're less exciting, but they generate bigger sums. So all of this compounds, and you can see why I keep referring to it. It's like pushing water uphill. You've got so many things you're trying to balance to try and keep it all going along.
It's interesting. Bear in mind the product, which is the licensed product, especially for the huge corporation like Fox, to get the product approved. It's not like somebody else on the other phone or line sitting and saying, yeah, it's okay, it's good, go for it. It's actually going through the massive steps. I mean, I told you about the 10 steps which are for us, but it's probably another 20 or 25 steps which are for them, internal steps to actually get this product approved. Because I've been getting emails from United States from the main person approving our miniatures, and he was blown away with the quality, and he haven't seen such a great and beautiful miniatures, and that was 2014. I mean, but they came back to us in 2015. I mean, that whole process was taking that long to actually get it. This is what we were absolutely not aware about the situation. If we were out of the situation, we wouldn't be actually pitching this one on Kickstarter. We would just basically, okay, let's just make it slowly. Let's just close this product. Let's spend this year and a half developing it, and then release to the public. Not even say anything that we actually have, but just do it that way. But again, this is learning curve.
I think it's interesting you made the point about Prodos and what your actual place within the industry is. It's very easy to think of Prodos and think of AVP and Space Crusade, which we're going to get onto in a few minutes. But Prodos are, I've been blown away by the innovation that you guys have been putting in place over the last few years in terms of, I'm hard pressed to think of a single company that does resin better than Prodos, and I know that you are involved as a contractor and a kind of like a service company behind the scenes behind a large number of other Kickstarters where you're providing this resin, this design service. Hell, we even got heads created. You guys are
3D design service.
well up there, even in terms of the prototyping and 3D printing as well. Moving now towards the end game. What you're expecting shipments to finish when, Jarek?
So in terms of actually shipment for VP, we plan to finish this one. The plan was to finish in March. We had some unexpected delay for about 4 weeks, which is explained there. But we keep pushing boxes out on daily basis. So the plan was to finish by March. I mean, looking at this one and being really realistic, we're probably looking at April. Now, there will be a potential, there will be collection at Salad. We bring in on the Salad quite a lot of Kickstarter stuff. So people actually visiting Salad, they have to bring their order from. If anything we all knew from the Kickstarter, just come in and actually collect it. We'll definitely have enough stock for you guys. But they're looking at finishing that wave completely in April. April, and then moving on from the April just for the last leftovers, so-called. We call wave 3. We call leftovers. This is basically a single miniatures or hero miniatures we need to get pushed through out the door and so on, so on. So this is what left. So when we're gonna be finishing third wave, I'm hoping it's going to be finished by May, by May, the third wave. And then after May, we're going to be completely clear and we can forget about this mayhem.
Well, I don't want you to forget about it too much. Are there future plans for AVP? Because we've been very impressed by what we have seen in terms of the models and AVP as a product. I've got to say, I know the packaging has been hard work for you guys, but even the very packaging of the products is looking great. Have you got future plans for it as an intellectual property that you guys hold the rights to?
Yes. So I won't be showing any images obviously. I can verbally tell you that we're going to be working next. First of all, going back to the hunt begins. We plan to increase more miniatures, increase the number of miniatures, so releases. So we're looking at maybe mercenaries. To add some mercenaries and then go back and increase the current factions as well. We are also looking at releasing a new, smaller, compact one-piece miniatures board game within next maybe 6 to 8 months, maybe by Christmas this year. We'll see how it goes. This is more for kids or for initial like entry game to the bigger game. So that's the plan for that one. And this came to us very recently only because we have new manufacturing process for one-piece miniatures, which we're probably going to discuss somewhere later. But yeah, that's the whole goal here. So that's for the AVP. So the plans are, I think, huge, and you will see quite a lot of new stuff coming. So
okay, cool. Awesome.
I won't say more because obviously I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
So it's better when you actually go to see it. This time we really want to do it in proper way. So
okay, right. So you had the whole AVP thing going on.
Yeah.
You had the controversy and stuff like that. So you decide to lead the quiet life and then create Space Crusade. Right. So for anybody that doesn't know, Space Crusade was announced, I think it was last month, to quite a furor, to a lot of commentary, and it took I've got to say, even within Beasts of War here, it kind of took us by surprise, because it's a load of power armored miniatures that are they're very scantily clad in some instances.
Yeah,
and it's I'm going to get my position set up front here because it's because I find myself in quite an interesting place. I'm very much a defender of freedom of expression. I'm very much a defender of businesses' ability to create products that people will want, and it doesn't have to be for everybody. I'm very kind of liberal in that approach, and I'm very anti-thought police. I don't think people should be policing other people and stuff like this in terms of what they think. So I sometimes find myself in the position of defending something that I may not personally want to buy.
Yeah,
or
but you believe there's every right
I
to
believe
exist.
that it has its right to be there. Now, I want to kind of go through this step by step, Yarg, because I'm really interested in what the game is actually all about. But before we get to that, can we talk a little bit about the name Space Crusade? Because I'm actually sitting with a copy of the original Space Crusade right here behind me.
One too as well. Okay.
Which is so Space Crusade as a name of a game. Many people remember from, I think it was back in 1990. It was a Milton Bradley Games workshop thing. If you go and look in previous weekenders, you'll find that you'll hear me talk about this exact box is what kicked off Beasts of War, because I found it in a charity shop for £1.50 at the time.
You see, it's games like this that I actually missed out on, because I've not been in the hobby anywhere near as long as you and Lloyd.
Now we know that, for example, that Hasbro or the trademark owners on these games have decided to let them go some while ago, and they're all kind of out of their protection, and they decided not to renew them. So clearly there was an opportunity for you there to pick up the name, but what was your reasoning behind it? Do you have almost like a special place in your heart for the original Space Crusade, or?
Yes, that's the game which basically brought me into the industry, into the gaming. So that was one of the reasons why we wanted to do it, and the other reason was my Space Crusade is missing a couple components, and I couldn't get it, so we need to make it.
Yeah,
that's the engineer coming out.
I've got to say though, Yarrick, I know that you're very interested in making the replacement components, but in my copy of Space Crusade, they're all fully power armored.
I know that. Hold on. Yeah, in terms of actually our game, don't worry about it. You will have this opportunity to actually use your miniatures in that game as well.
Oh, cool.
Let me just say that. So the whole concept for the Space Crusade was, let's make the game which gives you exactly the same feeling, exactly the same, just switch on this nostalgia light bulb when, Jesus, I remember I used to play this, it was very similar, it's the same. So yeah, this is exactly what we want to do. I want to play that game myself as I used to play the Space Crusade, original Space Crusade a long time ago. So the slightly different approach to this game will be, because we have to move on. I mean, we have to move on with, what is out there already. Yeah. So in terms of actually in development of the game, we're looking at more hero quest approach stroke talisman. So something very, very unique, but with option of building or increasing your army. So once your hero go through all the stages or basically fights off different kind of demons, which shows up on the board, and it gets like points. You can actually increase your army, and then this is where the real Space Crusades comes on board, because we're not going to be limiting you to number of miniatures or kind of miniatures you can use. So if you have some old miniatures, 25mm, as long as they're 25mm board, the base, or 40 or 50mm base, you can actually use them quite clearly on in that game. So
cool. So are you guys going to be doing like generic kind of stat cards?
Yes, there will be generic stat card. You have to also bear in mind, like with all of our games, I mean, AVP also give you that option to build your own army. So this exactly the same concept will be incorporated here. So if you want to play that game only the way as the Space Crusade was played in the past, so I built my army, I play the game, or fights you off, basically. There will be also options like that. So there is no really limitation. We always give 2 options in our board game. So the manual will probably again 90 something pages instead of 30 or 25. So yeah.
Are the rules ready at the moment? When are we likely to see our first look at the rules? And
we're going through the rules. We're going through the rules currently. So the rules are being on the final touch-up. So hopefully the rules going to be available for public. We want to send out a newsletter with the rules very, very soon. Yeah. Very, very soon. So looking about 3 to 4 weeks maximum. From that point. So then we will collect all the feedbacks before we actually go to print. But Prodos Games got a team of Crusaders. We call them Space Crusaders. So, I mean, you see that idea about the Space Crusade is coming back to 2013 when we start our business, by the way. So it's not like something new we come up. We have our Crusaders running for a long time. So, but anyway, yeah, we have a team of about 60 plus people who support us in different kind of ways. So they do demos for us worldwide. So what we do, we will give them rules. They will go to the shops, local shops, and they will play, collect feedbacks, and come back to us about how the game plays, how the flow, is it okay, is it good, how to improve, what to improve, and so on, so on, so on. You know? Yeah. So we want to make sure it's ever going to be almost perfect product.
Mm-hmm. Now, the initial product line that we saw, they were very scantily clad, I've got to say. You know, it's from my perspective, the most puzzling aspect of it was heavy armor on the arms and legs, and no armor where any of the vital organs were. So, to say I was puzzled from a narrative perspective, you might say, Jarek. But narratively, you do have some kind of an explanation in your mind for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is in a fluff. So basically, this is all about the magic which is inside each of the character or each of the hero. So they protected by a field which is generated by power. So when you play the game, you have a number of tokens, which is the mana tokens. So depending that mana tokens equally in the same time is your protection. So you can use more spells and drop your mana tokens to minimum level, but then your protection is going down as well. So physical armor is not important at all. It's only that mana armor which is actually very important, right? So, and this is why they're not wearing that much armor, because it just interfere that energy with physical armor, so they just have limited number of armor. So that's the explanation why we're doing it and how it's actually played. So
yeah, and let's not forget, sex sells. We'll hold you to that one as well, right? But all of that aside, we've got some images of the next kind of set of miniatures and expansion of the miniatures, which is you're kind of pitching it as, look, there is a PG-13 kind of version of the game. So, Justin, can we bring up some of these images and have Jarek tell us about them?
Yeah. So our first one is for one of the darker factions, the heavy armored one with a white shoulder plate. Jarek.
Yeah. So, how long have you guys was doing fully armored or kind of like PG-13 versions of the miniatures something that was always on the cards, or has public feedback played a part and you bring in these forward, or?
We had in mind in plans, but we didn't have in mind in plans to do release it so fast or so quickly. The main reason why we decided to do it, we just had lots of emails coming to us, and then the information, lots of emails coming to us, and the question was, you know what, I've got the kids, I want to play this game with my kids, and I want to bring them into 40k, and this is actually quite good door, actually, go back to this and explain to you how it works, and they would like to have different kind of miniatures. So we decided, okay, you know what, because people asking for it, let's do it. So we just listen to the feedback, basically. So of the customers. So yeah, that's why we have it now. So we will have two versions. Surprisingly, the PG-18 version sells more in terms of but regardless, I think both line of miniatures will find its customers. So and I personally fan of both of them anyway.
Yeah. Well, this is.
It's the old adage. You'll never please everybody.
Yeah, but what I was saying at the start is, the world is made up of all sorts of people. And I've been speaking to both male and female gamers about this line, and what I'm finding out is it's not a male-female thing. It's just an individual thing. Some people love what they see, other people don't like what they see, and it applies across all games. Sooner or later, we were going to start to see. Well, I say start to see. They've always kind of been there, but we were going to start to see in a major way some of the more adult-orientated products coming online. And
the way it went for 40k. I mean, some demons in the past that were basically fully open, and then obviously they. I don't know if Games Workshop still sell themselves there, but they used to be there demons with full chest open. So
it's the nature of where we're going. Hell, last week on Beasts of War, we had an entire segment dedicated to My Little Pony.
Yeah.
So it's at all ends. It's just
I will
everything
say,
is
I was surprised
expanding.
at the response of that one.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so what is next for Prodos, Jarek? Tell us a bit about what you've got going on as a company.
So maybe going back to Space Crusade miniatures range. So I would just want to show you a couple of models we're releasing this month, how big they are. So if you imagine this is the 28mm heroic scale miniature. This is the basically, see it. Yeah. This is one of the hero miniatures which gonna be in the in the main board. This is the demon which goes as well. So that's one of the demons which we're going to be releasing. This would is
you're getting fair lumps of miniature in this game.
Oh, look at that one.
That is the Archeon demon, which also here.
Hold it back a bit, Jarek. Move it back a bit.
But it is the first male miniature in that range as well. So
push it back from the camera a little bit, Jarek. Hold it up and just back towards you. Back towards you. Down a bit. There we go. Just look at the scale.
I don't see my camera. I didn't see it. But
I actually have a painted version of this if you want to see it as well.
Have you got a painted version of this? Yeah, bring it up.
Right here, this guy.
And there it is.
That's really nice looking, isn't it?
10 centimeter tall miniature. She is much more taller. She's about 17 or 20 something. So there is we will expand the line of Space Crusader miniatures for them. I mean, that's another hero. You probably have seen it. This is something which we said we're going to do it only because we have managed to develop a new process, so new manufacturing process of miniatures. I mean, there is something we've been trying to achieve in the last year and a half. Okay, so quick step back about the Prodos. Prodos is basically run and managed by engineers. So this is why we're so bad in PR, because we're basically engineers. So we know how to make stuff, and we don't know how to promote it. So this is the field we have to improve in the future in our company, and we know that very well. But in general, we've always been looking and searching the way of making miniatures for mass market. So we're talking here about the board games, and the board game mass market is basically one-piece miniatures.
Yeah.
So we've been investigating different kind of actually manufacturing, and one of them was PVC manufacturing. However, the PVC manufacturing for toys, and specifically for toys, is not allowed because PVC is basically toxic product. Not PVC itself, but the additives which goes with the PVC. So really, I'm not saying the other do that because they may find some other solution. So really, in Europe, you won't find anyone making miniatures, Europe-based manufacturing made miniatures from PVC. Right? So that's only one thing which is very, very important to say. So we've been looking at different means and solutions, and we tandem up with our local university, and we had some students coming in here. We had like open debate and discussion how we can actually improve this process and what new we can actually bring to the business, and not the business but the industry. So we've actually managed to create a process which gives a one-piece miniature. I mean, have a look on that. This is the one-piece miniature. There's nothing glued in. This is like
you are joking me.
Sealed and everything. This is what you get from manufacturing process, and this is nothing that. I will send you guys samples. You can then play with it and so on. So this is made from one piece.
Hang on. So, you hold that pose up to the camera.
So you can see that.
You've got voids down in behind the shield and the gun, and you're telling me this comes out of the mold like that.
Yes, this comes out the mold like that.
Wow.
This, that's the secret. That's the magic stuff.
Yeah.
So this comes out from the mold like that. Okay. This came out from the mold like that. There's nothing being glued. You got the arms, you got the wings, you got that thing there. You got the gap between the legs. You can see this quite robust material. Is different than actually we have been using for our resin. So it's actually a combination. The main problem was the material, by the way, in this process. So it is much more flexible material.
Oh wow!
So for the miniature for both the miniatures, it's perfect. It's not toxic. For most important thing, it's not toxic material. You don't have to be worried about any. I know this is PVC. My kid's gonna get a cancer or something like that. No, you don't have to be worried about that. You can drop them on the floor. Nothing will happen to them. If anything breaks off, it snaps off perfectly. So you can just glue in. I've got a video. I just needed to throw the miniature very, very seriously. I needed to destroy it, not like I just drop on the floor. So
what you're telling me is you're creating Warren-proof one-piece miniatures. now you have my total attention. What's the resolution of the detail like on them, Jarek?
It's basically as it is with resin, because we use slightly different. The silicon we use is actually industry silicon for automotive. So it's different silicon that you have been seeing previously, because what it is, you got one half of the tool and then you got a silicon, other half the tool. It goes together. You got low pressure plastic goes through it in order to actually make. I will send you the pictures of how it actually looked like. The one half of the tool once we're ready to show anything like that to the public.
All right,
but it's completely different process than you would expect it to be. So it's much more. What is good about this process, we can finally produce miniatures, board game miniatures in seriously huge quantities. So we are not limited to number, capacity really. I mean, if somebody comes in and wants like 10,000 units, fine, 10,000 units, here you go. In the next 3-4 weeks, you're gonna get 10,000 units. You don't have to wait months for making tool. I mean, if you want to do PVC tooling, we've been doing this one in the past when we try to get some, quotes on AVP, PVC. It's about 4 or 5 weeks to get it. Minimum quantity you have to order is thousands. You want to reorder of this batch of miniatures, you have to place minimum 1,000, 2 or 5,000, something like that. So for the board game manufacturer, which just want to sell around 5,000 units or 10,000 units maximum, because it's a small stuff, it's no point to go in there and spending 40,000, 50,000 pounds on the tooling when you can actually, for that 40,000, 50,000 pounds, make all the miniatures you need. And then reorder, 100 units, 50 units. So we have some big companies actually been very interested in this one. I'm not going to be hiding the fact. I've got many more samples on my desk. I'm sorry I can't show you them.
Oh, you tease.
Yeah.
They've been licensed for different games. So and we're doing them for different games. I'll show you off the camera, but we will send, once we're ready, we'll send you all the samples, and then you can do the viewings.
What a fascinating process. I cannot wait to learn more.
See where that goes.
What else? Anything else coming up for Prodos? Like that wasn't enough.
Quite a lot of stuff for the Warzone. We plan to do a huge. We had like a release plan, but we're probably going to double this release plan. So something exciting for the Warzone fans. So we have like again scoping capacity to get more and more out for Warzone Resurrection. So this is where we're coming. And that's about it for now. We just want to focus on two things. Let's finish this AVP Kickstarter because we're so close to close the doors on it. And then forget about it. We focus on the Space Crusade board game, one-piece miniatures, which is a fantastic process, and I'm going to be definitely showing, and I want to basically run some article with you, if that's possible in the future, about it, where I show you all the steps of the process.
Fantastic.
Cool.
And the new AVP, new AVP, this is something important to say, because we finally got this process in place. All the AVP miniatures in the new board game, in the future we're going to release the small one, the compact one will be one-piece miniatures. So it's something we just take out of the box and put and play. So
nice.
Well, I think that anybody out there that is in manufacturing or doing Kickstarters on board games will be scrambling around for your email address now, Jarek, I would imagine. And I'm hugely excited for this one-piece casting process. I think that we could be looking at a real game changer there.
I've got few high res pictures of these models actually, so I'm able to send you them as well through if you wanna post them up. Obviously we haven't sent you because we haven't we're not ready to show you them, but I'm more than happy to actually take a few photos today and send you later on, and you can actually post up later on or something.
Fantastic.
Something which is very interesting anyway. So definitely.
Jarek, thank you, mate. We'll not leave it too long before we get you back on the show. Do we get another update? Okay, guys, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Back to the studio, but first let's tell you about some hubs.
From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our foreground hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastsofwar.com. Venture into the dangerous dungeons of myth as a mighty hero and stand against the darkness. Visit the Myth Hub on beastsofwar.com and begin your story.
Okay, cool stuff. It's really good to be able to get in touch directly with the company and find out what's been going on and stuff.
Well, it was nice to hear from Jarek. The AVP is finally coming to the end of getting all of its Kickstarter stuff. and the fact that they are going to continue with the range after the fact. It's nice to see that Space Crusade is actually, it's something that's dear to their heart more than anything else, because when I was talking to Yarrick, he was actually saying, I loved this game as a kid, but I had lost some components. So because the license came up and I could actually make some new stuff for it myself, I wanted to, which is a really, really nice thing.
Cool stuff. Now, Justin, you were showing off stuff during the interview and things.
Yeah.
I believe you now have actually some physical stuff here to show us.
I have some physical stuff, and they are absolutely gorgeous. Now, at the time of filming, we didn't have the miniatures in the studio. Since then, a little package has arrived, and here is what we have. So, you want to know the funny thing? You see the shape of these miniatures?
Yeah.
They're all single cast.
Get away!
They're all single piece minis. This
Really?
is how they came out of the box. The really interesting one is this. How do you get this kind of a void into a miniature? See where you have the gap between the gun and the shield here.
Okay. Yes. I don't know. Normally when you get like miniatures like this, there's 2 or 3 bits you have to put together.
Well,
You're telling me this literally arrived
like that? Like that. And I mean, like even our little demon here with the wings, the arms, the big staff, the crown, all was already on there.
It's really fine looking stuff.
Just magic. Magic is what it is.
Some form of sorcery, Ben.
Magic. I'm with Ben on this. It's magic. That's how it's done. Right. Interesting stuff. Probably we should remind people what the prize is this week.
Yeah, this week you can actually win 2 nice little bundles from the guys at Prodos. So one of them is from Space Crusade, showing off some of their heroes, which are these. So I'll quickly read out their names. We have Lamia, Calypso, Nyx, and Themis. But you can also win some very cool stuff for Warzone Resurrection as well. So we've got some of the Martians. We've got, what are these guys? These are Mercurian Maculators, which are very cool. And then we have Angry Space Scots riding on wolves.
No, we don't. We have orcs. Oh, now we have Angry Space Scots riding on wolves.
Yeah, which just look fantastic. I love the design of these. They're very, very nice.
Awesome stuff. Right, remember, if you want to be on the chance of winning both those bundles, comment below on beastofwar.com, on the YouTube channel, or on the Facebook post for this. Awesome stuff. Ben.
Yes.
Before I get too tied up in awesome stuff and prizes and stuff, we're going to round out the show with one Kickstarter. We can just about squeeze in one Kickstarter.
If I'm right, it's an Indiegogo.
One Indiegogo. One Indiegogo. Ben, what are we going to talk about?
Okay, cool. So last week we were talking a lot about sort of single miniatures and stuff like that. Well, this is another one from Prodos Collectibles, and this is their 54mm Mummy Queen that they're trying to get funded on Indiegogo, as Justin rightly pointed out.
Yeah, you're really into your collectible minis and stuff at the minute.
I really am. I'll probably never paint any of them, but I love the idea of collectible miniatures and just having nice things to paint and look at and try different techniques out on. Yeah.
So are they trying to fund one miniature?
Yes. The funding for this is all for the Mummy Queen to bring it out, but they are offering some additional options as well. They have previously worked on different queens, so they also have a werewolf and a vampire queen as well. Yeah.
Cool, right? We've just arrived on them. So if they were, are these like pledges, or how do you get them, or why are they all on the one page?
They're additional pledges, so you can add to your pledge and get the Mummy Queen as well as the werewolf and the vampire queen at the same time.
Okay, I believe if we go to our own website, we'll get some higher res images of this stuff.
Well,
so
we've seen the Mummy Queen.
No, let's see her again. She's worth looking at again.
Okay, here you go.
I mean, that's cool.
The thing that I really liked about the Mummy Queen is how they've designed her in a way that it could be both sci-fi and fantasy in the same vein. So you could almost go for like a Stargate-inspired look to her, sort of bringing in that old TV show. That would be pretty cool.
Go back to the top image there.
I'm going to be really boring here. Do you want to know what I like best about this miniature?
What?
The actual base.
The base
as boring
is pretty
as that
awesome.
sounds, I like the base.
No, Justin, no.
No, look, it's really nicely designed. You've got the mummy crawling up out from the Egyptian ruins as she summons it. It's very, very cool.
Oh, I thought it was just some dead dude.
No, that's a mummy that she's summoning.
I think the face on this looks class. I love the way they've painted it with that sort of metallic metal. I get that sci-fi Stargate feel from it, Ben, that you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Okay, what other ones do we have here?
So yes, as additionally we said, there's got the werewolf and the vampire queen.
Ooh, that's very nice.
She's essentially Red Riding Hood, isn't she?
Yeah, it is basically Red Riding Hood.
So she's a vampire Red Riding Hood?
No. There's another queen.
Oh, there's another queen.
A vampire. So we have a vampire and the werewolf one.
All right, I thought you were saying this was her. Okay.
This is very, very cool.
Let's see oh, gee whiz, look at that.
All of the detail on this is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Whoever painted this needs like a a chocolate bar for all their effort.
I'm going to
Chocolate
say,
bar.
whoever's painting these is really going to be in with a good chance of our painting award for this year.
All right, here we go.
Will be.
So there's our vampire queen.
Definitely she's the vampire queen.
Well, I mean, like, look at even the little bit of source lighting they have from the blood shining in the goblet.
That is cool.
That's seeing tiny details like that just really jump out at you.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things with these big miniatures. Like, I love the idea that you could go through this and you could paint them up as the characters they are, with all the different, tones of flesh and doing the clothing and things. And then there are probably those people out there who are looking at these pieces and thinking about how they could turn them into huge, rather expensive to buy statues for their tabletops. So, like, imagine the Vampire Queen sort of with weathering techniques done as stone, with like bits taken out of her face and her arms and things like that.
Why
you have
do
these
I-
massive monuments. Yeah.
Ben, I have the feeling that you want to do a Sylvanian castle at some point.
That would be fantastic for not the tiny animals, Lloyd. Actually, vampires from Warhammer.
What? It's not Sylvanian families.
No.
Sylvanian Warhammer, that's what we're
Sylvania
looking
is
at.
actually a vampire realm
Yes,
within the old world of Warhammer before the Age of Sigmar came along.
Sylvanian families.
Oh, yes,
Da,
not
da,
that.
da,
You
da.
know, it's well seen. I'm from a different generation. I'm just sitting here blank-faced.
I like the Mummy Queen myself.
Aye.
If we're talking about,
for me, it's the werewolf one.
I wonder if you could use her in games and stuff, because I just think she'd be classed like a Egyptian goddess figure.
You could use it as like
There's
a
some
huge,
of the
giant
mythological
warrior or
rule sets from Osprey you could probably do that with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome stuff. Right, that's from who, Ben?
That's from Contraros Collectibles. Yes.
And there's about 20-something days left to go, and
Yeah,
they
they're
are
23.
They are funded.
aren't they?
They are well funded.
Yes.
So they're well beyond, well into their funding. So it's a given. If you want it, there you go. Go over and get it.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's going to arrive, but there you go. That's it. That's all we can squeeze into this week's show. It's been a bumper show. We've had loads of people on. We've talked about loads of different things. Right. If you're not a backstager, maybe this week you want to come over and try watching the XLBS version of this show. It's not an extended version of this show. It's a whole other episode of The Weekender. And we have a 7-day free trial that you can click on a link, give it a whirl, and see what you think. If it's of interest to you, we'd love to see you. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, on Sunday.
Flames of War brings you the battles of World War II in epic 15mm scale. Go to the hub on beastsofwar.com to find news, tactics, and tutorials about the game. Keep your blaster handy, the West is a dangerous place. Fight to survive as men turn to monsters and the dead rise on the Wild West Exodus hub at beastsofwar.com.